I think the main reason people call themselves atheists is so they have an excuse to do bad things and not feel guilty about, what they know innately is wrong. But you're completely right. It's completely unfair for people of a certain ideology to come along and say that we must teach children my ideology regardless of what their parents believe and think. That's truly disgusting. And feminism and the whole idea of getting the mother out of the household and locking the children in these educational camps is the reason they wanted to do all this stuff. And they want to control the youth, especially the youth, because children are the easiest to manipulate to shape the future. And they're trying to shape the future of the children so that they are very good at ignoring their own innate moralities and also very good at ignoring their own eyes. When you said earlier about X and Y, I perfectly understood you, and we're on YouTube, so we'll have to talk very carefully. But if you can convince somebody that a giraffe is a horse, and you can convince them that even if they look directly at a giraffe, that they know that their mind tells them it's a horse, regardless of the fact that they can see a giraffe before their very eyes, then they are completely open for all forms of slave programming. Once you get people to ignore their eyes, well, then the game is complete, right? So this is purposeful. This is done on purpose.
No doubt. I was doing at one point. I did a part of my postgraduate on gender studies, and I was speaking to this person on the lift, and she said that the penis is a social construct.
Of course it is.
So I said, okay, well, no problem then. On that logic, rape is a social construct.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. If you take your belief to its logical conclusion, then it actually leads to things that you don't want to happen. For example, if you say that racism, so if I can identify as a black man or a white man or whatever, then racism becomes a social construct. So it's once again, if you take your ideas and stretch them out, you get exactly the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. And I don't think this has been thought out properly.
But these people don't think, and this is what's amazing. It shows what privileged world we live in. They don't think because their ideas, the reason they don't think is because their ideas aren't tested. When your ideas are tested and challenged, you have to find a way to rebut and prove your ideas to be true. The reason their ideas aren't tested is because of censorship. If you argue against these ideas, they delete the other side of the argument, which means we now live in a false version of reality because one side of the argument is completely decimated and deleted. Hence, the computers purport the matrix, and this is exactly where we are. If we could freely talk and argue against these points, they'd be gone. But we can't, which is why they still exist, which is why false ideas, which should have been destroyed long ago, are now pertinent amongst the population because of the matrix and their media machine and the false computer-generated reality we're forced to live under the guise of censorship. And this is what we say. I said this to somebody. They said, "Oh man, you lost your Instagram. That must suck." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I lost Instagram. I can't show off my fancy cars. Cool." But it's not about that. This is about genuinely good versus evil. This is about the fact that if you read any history book, the people who did the censoring were never the good guys. This is genuinely about the forces of evil versus God. That's what this is about. It's not about my Instagram page. It's about the fact that there are ideas that they have now that we can't talk against. For the last 3 years, they had this thing we weren't allowed to talk against, and look what it did to people. Look how it decimated people, locking them in their houses, destroying people's businesses, etc. And guess what's going to come next? Another idea we're not allowed to talk against, and another one we're not allowed to talk against. And people think that anyone who's ignorant enough to sit there and trust the rulers of earth or their government and go, they're going to come up with ideas that I can't disagree with and nobody can disagree with, and those ideas are going to be good for me.